In this video, we will talk about fixing cracked floor joist. Now, the first thing you need to do if you do have a cracked floor joist, like most home repairs, is actually try to figure out what caused the damage. Now, when it comes to floor joist, cracks can actually be caused by weight that is placed upon them. And if this is the case, then the joist might need to be replaced. And it might need to be replaced with a larger member or even a beam. So if you have a wall sitting on top of a floor joist or a concentrated load, and this would be hard to actually see. A wall you can see, you can take some measurements from the bottom, transfer them to the top, and see if you have a wall sitting on top of a floor joist. And if that's the case, you might need to put another floor joist next to it or two more floor joists, one on each side of it. Depending upon the crack, or you might even need a floor beam. A concentrated load might be even harder to find, but if you do have a cracked joist, try to figure out why it cracks. Sometimes they crack just because they dry out. They might have a large knot in the lumber and shouldn't have been used for that. For a floor joist, might have been graded at the lumber yard or the manufacturing of the lumber yard incorrectly. So that's the key point. Figure out what caused the crack. Now, if you do have a minor crack like this, something small, that might not even be an issue. If there's no weight sitting on top of it, it can actually be fixed with a few screws maybe, or some boards, and I'll show you about that later on in the video. Now, the second type of crack would be a crack that goes all the way through but isn't separated. If you have a crack like this, you might need to replace the joist also. Now, this is the crack that's going to concern most people. This would be a crack that's actually separated. And a crack like this doesn't need to go all the way through. The reason why I'm making this video is because someone sent me in a question. They had a small crack that went to about here, looked like on a roof rafter, and I don't think that that's even an issue, what they have the crack, and it can actually be fixed by a few screws, I would imagine. So first thing you're going to do if you do have a joist that is a concern would be to add another joist next to it. And then you can simply get a hydraulic jack, a screw jack. Hydraulic jack would probably work a little better. With a 4x4, raise the joist that is damaged. If it's got a crack in it, there's a good chance that it is sagging and will need to be raised. After we've raised everything, we can go ahead and nail the damaged joist to the new joist with 16D nails. It shouldn't be a problem there, and you can put as many nails as you want. They can go all the way across. I think for something like this, an engineer might actually recommend 16-inch on center nails at the top and the bottom for this type of a repair. Now remember, you can replace the damaged joist if you have access to the top, but if you have a tile floor above or a wood floor or it's carpeted and you don't want to pull the carpeting out, you don't want to remove the tile or the wood floor, this is the way you're going to make the repair. If you're removing everything, you're going to be taking the flooring up, then you can actually consider replacing the joist instead of adding an additional joist to it. So this is going to be the easier way to fix a damaged joist instead of replacing it. Okay, next crack. Same thing. If you have a crack but it hasn't separated, you can repair it by replacing it or nailing attaching another joist to it. Now, the smaller crack, something that might not even be a problem, can actually be fixed with a few screws if you want. Tighten get the jack, get the post, put it underneath the joist. If you do have any type of separation, lift it up, raise it up with the jack, and then drive some screws in it. You might need to pre-drill the holes, and of course do not drill any holes or put the screws in until you have raised the joist. They do sell long screws. I've seen them for glulam beam repairs, and I really don't know what else they use them for, but I've seen screws that are over 10 inches long, and they're small diameter screws. So you can use something like that to fix cracks like this. Now, would this be a structural repair? I don't think so. Using the screws for something like this would be a repair for something that would be lighter duty, something that wouldn't have a lot of weight on it. So again, smaller cracks that aren't dealing with a lot of stress. So here's another repair. You have the crack. I took the joist out of the floor to make it a little easier. Just grab yourself a 1x. If you have a 2x10, get a 1x10. You could use 3/4 inch plywood. Keep in mind that they do use plywood or OSB when they are making floor joist. So manufactured floor joists actually have plywood and OSB in them, and keep in mind that the grains for the plywood and the OSB usually run up and down. They do not run side to side, so that might be a good way to use the plywood or the OSB for a repair. So you would cut a 4-foot piece off of the end of the plywood and use that for your repair. Now I have screws in here. Reason why I have the screws is sometimes it's easier to do a repair like this with screws, but nails would be recommended. Again, screws are a little more brittle. For a light duty repair like this, screws might just be fine. Now something else I've thought of but I never really saw, I'm just going to kind of throw this out there, would be using a strap. Just grab a strap and roll it around the crack, a little bit of damage there, and this might just be enough to fix what you need for your repair. So a couple of ideas, hope they work. The main thing is the weight, and I cannot stress that enough. If you have a crack in your joist, you've got to figure out what's causing it, and it could even be related to a snow load. If you have one joist that's cracked and that's it, that just might be a bad piece of lumber, and it might need to be replaced or have another board nailed next to it. But if you have a few boards that are cracked or damaged, or sagging, then they might need to be replaced. So keep that in mind. To me, there is no sense in doing a repair if you're just going to end up with the same problem later. And that's what a lot of repairs. What happens to a lot of repairs done by do-it-yourselfers. They go in and they fix something. They watch one of my videos. Hey, I'm going to go in and fix this. Great idea. But they ending up with the same problem a few years later. So finding out what actually caused the problem is going to be the key to any types of repairs, including cracked joists.